Hello everyone, this is Om Prakash from Institution of Aeronautical Engineering College from CSIT branch. My topic is about public and private data members. Before going to the topic, let us see some contents. Different procedure versus object-oriented programming, future of OOP, fundamental concept of OOP in Python. What is object? What is class? Methods in classes, initiating object with int, self-encapsulation, public protected and private data. Difference between procedure-oriented and object-oriented programming. Procedural programming creates a step-by-step program that guides the application through a sequence of instructions. Each instruction is executed in order. Procedural programming also focuses on the idea that all algorithms are executed with functions and data that the programmer has access to and is able to change. Object-oriented programming is much more similar to the way the real world works. It is analogous to the human brain. Each program is made up of many entities called objects. Instead, a message must be sent to the data just like people must ask one another for information. We cannot see inside each other's heads. Features of object-oriented programming: ability to simulate real-world events much more effectively. Code is reusable, thus less code may have to be written. Data becomes active, better able to create GUI, graphical user interface applications. Programs are able to produce faster, more accurate than better written applications. Fundamental concepts of object-oriented programming in Python. The four major principles of object-oriented are encapsulation, data abstractions, inheritance, polymers. Let us see what is an object. Objects are the basic runtime entities in an object-oriented system. They may represent a person, a place, a bank account, a table of data, or any time that the program must handle. When a program is executed, the objects interact by sending messages to one another. Objects have two components. Data means attributes, behavior means methods. Object attributes and methods. Example. Object attributes store the data for the object. Example taxi, driver, on duty, num passengers, location. Object methods define the behavior for the object. Here also example taxi, pick up, drop off, go on duty, go off duty, get driver, set driver, get number of passengers. What is a class? A class is a special data type which defines how to build a certain kind of object. The class also stores some data items that are shared by all the instances of this class. Instances are objects that are created which following the definition given inside of the class. Python does not use separate class interface definitions as in some languages. You just define the class and then use it. Methods in classes. Define a method in a class by including function definitions within the scope of the class block. There must be special first argument self in all of method definitions which get bound to the calling instance. There is usually a special method called underscore int underscore in the most classes. A simple class def student class student A class representing a student, def underscore int underscore self n a self dot full underscore name equals to n self dot age equals to a def get underscore age self return self dot age. Define class. Class name being with capital letter by convention. Object class based on Python built-in type. Define a method like defining a function must have a special first parameter self which provide way for a method to refer to object itself. Initiating objects with underscore init. Underscore init is the default constructor. Underscore init serves as the constructor for the class, usually does some initialization work, and underscore init method can take any number of arguments. However, the first argument self in the definition of underscore init is special. Self, the first argument of every method, is a reference to the current instance of the class. By convention, we name this argument as self. In underscore init, self refers to the object currently being created. So in other class methods, it refers to the instances whose method was called. Similar to the keyword, this is Java or C++, but Python uses self more often than Java uses this. You do not give the value for this parameter self when you call the method. Python will provide it. Although you must have specified self explicitly when defining the method, you do not include it when calling the method. Python passes it for you automatically. Defining a method def get underscore age self number self dot age equals to number. Calling a method x dot get underscore age 23. Encapsulation. Important advantage of object-oriented programming consists in the encapsulation of data. We can say that object-oriented programming relies heavily on encapsulation. The terms encapsulation and abstraction, also data hiding, are often used as synonyms. They are nearly synonyms, that is, abstraction is achieved through encapsulation. Data hiding and encapsulation are the same concept, so it's correct to use them as synonyms. Generally speaking, encapsulation is the mechanism for restricting the access to some of an object's components. This means that the internal representation of an object can be seen from outside of the object definition. Access to this data is typically only achieved through special methods, getters and setters. By using slowly get and set methods, we can make sure that the internal data cannot be accidentally set into an inconsistent or invalid state. C++, Java and C#, rely on the public, private, and protected keywords in order to implement variable scoping and encapsulation. It's nearly always possible to circumvent this protection mechanism. Public, protected, and private data. If an identifier does not start with an underscore character, it can be accessed from outside. That is, the value can be read and changed. Data can be protected by making members private or protected. Instance variable names starting with two underscore characters cannot be accessed from outside of the class. at least not directly, but they can be accessed through private name managing. That means private data underscore A can be accessed by the following name constructor instance underscore name dot underscore class name underscore A. If an identifier is only preceded by one underscore character, it is protected by member. Protected members can be accessed like public members from outside of the class. Example, class encapsulation object def underscore init self abc self dot public equals to a self dot underscore protected equals to b self dot underscore private equals to c. The following interactive session shows the behavior of public protected and private members. X equals to encapsulation 11 13 17 x dot public it gives 11 x dot underscore protected it gives 13 x dot underscore protected equals to 23 x dot underscore protected it gives 23 x dot underscore private it shows attribute error because of encapsulation object has no attribute. The following table shows the difference between public protected and private data. Name, notation, behavior. Name, public, can be accessed from inside and outside. Underscore name, protected, like a public member, but they shouldn't be directly accessed from outside. Underscore name, private, cannot be seen and accessed from outside. Access modifiers in Python, public, private, and protected. Various object-oriented languages like C++, Java, Python control access modification which are used to restrict access to variables and methods of the class. Most programming languages has three forms of access modifiers which are public, protected, and private in a class. Python uses underscore symbol to determine the access control for a specific data members or a member function of a class. Access specifiers in a Python have an important role to play in securing data from unauthorized access and in preventing it from being exploited. A class in Python has three types of access modifiers: public access modifier, protected access modifier, private access modifier. Public access modifiers. The members of a class that are declared public are easily accessible from any part of the program. All data members and member function of a class are public by default. And this is the code for public access modifier. And this is the output of public access modifier. Protected access modifier. The member of a class that are declared protected are only accessible to a class derived from it. Data members of a class are declared protected by adding a single underscore symbol before the data members of the class. And this is the code for protected access modifier. And this is the output. Thank you for everyone giving this opportunity for me to present my concept video.